So it's been like
A little bit.
a minute since we posted up one of these episodes. Sorry about that. I have an annual work trip that we go on, and actually we taped this episode you're about to hear prior to me going on that work trip, and I went to edit it right before we left, and my microphone wasn't working the entire time we were shooting
Fun
the
things.
episode.
That's how taping goes sometimes. And then we had nasty sickness that ran through our house, and thankfully didn't hit Nathan and me, but kind of caught us up for a little while.
But here we are, and I'm super excited about this episode because I've already heard it once. And it's
Groundhog's Day.
It's a good episode. So if you remember way back to our last episode, if you didn't have a chance to listen to it, I'd love to have you go back and check it out. We've been talking about the importance of dating. But one of the things I don't want people to think, and we've met some couples tragically that fell into this, where they just thought they were going to go on dates every once a month or every couple of weeks, and that was going to build for them a really close marriage. And they were really confused and upset when they realized, why don't we have we go on dates. Why don't we have any kind of intimacy in our marriage? And what we've realized over the years is those dates are important, critically important. Go back and listen to our last few weeks of episodes. But the most important thing when it comes to intimacy is building in what Andrea and I are calling micro intimacy into your marriage.
Let's get into that.
Before we jump into today's show, I wanted to ask you to check out our website, brand new website, marriagebydesignpodcast.com. That's marriagebydesignpodcast.com. All of our episodes are available there on that website. Love to have you pop over there, follow us there, and check it out.
If you have a topic that you're wanting more information on or you have questions about, you can search on our website by topic, which is a really great feature.
That's right. And more than anything, guys, please share this with someone that would find it meaningful for them. Without any more delay, let's get to the show. Hi, everybody. I'm Nathan Warnock.
I'm Andrea Warnock, and you've joined us for, it's been a minute. I forgot how to do this. You joined us for Marriage by Design podcast, a time where we get to talk to you about God's design for marriage, what the Bible has to say about that, and how we live that out practically.
So as I mentioned, we're going to talk today about micro intimacy. Nope. We're going to talk about micro intimacy, which is more or less the opposite of microaggressions.
I clearly have, I don't know what, every time you say micro, I think of two things. One, I'm not going to say here, and the other one is microaggressions. I don't know.
Is it micro private areas?
Yeah.
Great. Now everyone's like, he probably does these really long podcasts because he's compensating for something.
No.
Okay, we're moving right on from this. I'll tell you that right now. We're going to talk about micro intimacy. And so the first thing I want to mention here is when we talk, oftentimes I think people hear the word intimacy and what do they hear? Sex, right. This is not a episode
That's what Nathan
about
hears.
sex. This is an episode about being complete intimacy within your marriage. So we did
Finding
a series
those
early
small
on
moments to
connect,
fan the flames of intimacy that really is not really about sex. It's just the depth of finding those small moments to fan the flames of the depth of your relationship.
That's right, because intimacy isn't just sex. As we covered on this podcast earlier, this season 5, intimacy is verbal, like emotional, it's physical, it's spiritual, and it's sexual. It's all four of those things. And if you don't have all four of those, and if you're not developing all four of those in your marriage, you're missing out on a big piece of intimacy. And like a table, if you're missing, maybe you can get away with missing one of the legs. But if you miss or underdevelop 2 or 3 of those legs, pretty soon you don't even have a table anymore.
Right. And even if you're missing one, it's not stable.
That's right.
And the others are overworked, or they're not.
That's right.
It's not working right.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So what we want to talk about today is these small moments of intimacy that we want to be intentional about having within our marriage. So we're going to talk about that here for just a little bit. Then we want to talk about some practical examples of what this looks like in our marriages, and then leave you with some encouragement to overcome some of the obstacles that can prevent us from building those into our marriage. So first thing we want to do is just summarize briefly the importance of intimacy at all, right? There are plenty of couples out there. I can see them in my mind's eye through the camera that are honestly at a place in their marriage where they'd ask the question, like, I mean, yeah, we're not particularly intimate, my husband and I, or my wife and I, but we're functional. Like, we raise good kids, we're doing good things, we're involved in church, but we're just not very intimate. And so what does that really matter?
Oh, you were asking me.
Yes,
Sorry.
yes.
I had kind of checked out for a minute. Honestly, I started thinking about something else.
Were you back to the micro?
I don't know what I was. Well, I do, but I was clearly not paying attention. Can you re-ask the question?
What is the what's the importance of having intimacy at all? Like, why does that matter for our marriage? Why not just, if you have a functional marriage, who cares? Like, why are we extolling people to get serious about infusing the everyday with intimate moments?
I mean, there's so many things. Just saying, yeah, we have a marriage. Like, it's, we're 2 people, we have a wedding license, we get along, it works, whatever. Man, you're missing out on what God intended for your marriage. And God's intention is that your marriage reflect his desired relationship with his believers, the church,
right. Yep.
And so his desired relationship is not this, like, we signed a contract, we signed a covenant, and now we just kind of skate along and check the boxes, right? Like, we can all do that. We can all check the boxes of relationship with the Lord, but that's not really relationship. That's duty. And that's not what the Lord desires. And there's so much more. We know that Jesus came that we might have life, and life abundantly. And if our life with him is supposed to be abundant, that means our marriage should be a reflection of that. And our marriage should be abundant life too. And we should always be seeking to have abundance within our relationship and our marriage. So for those reasons, just having a, hey, this just works. We just, we get along okay. And we don't really have a depth of relationship, but it works. That's not what the Lord intended at all. And I'll tell you, you're just missing out.
Yeah.
And you're missing out on, even in those hard times, really a lot of growth, just a lot of personal growth in the hard times and the good times and all that. Because if Nathan and I just settled for a functional marriage, I would be missing out on so many things that the Lord wants to teach me and grow me in. And that leads to the abundance in my life, in my marriage and my life and my walk with the Lord and my parenting and my friendships with other people. So,
yeah, I mean, you really nailed like the big ideas of why we want to do this, but there's some practical reasons too, right? Just like quote unquote happiness in your marriage.
Yeah.
Like that isn't intimacy within your marriage is an important contributor to the satisfaction that you feel in your marriage. Now, is our marriage all about what we feel? Well, no. And you can throw a rock in any direction on our website and you'll find episodes where we're telling you it's not about your happiness. But what we also say is that our happiness is a byproduct of modeling a marriage on God's design.
Yeah, and it's important to us too.
Right. And so as we pursue intimacy, because our marriage is meant to be a picture of God's relationship with us, and it's right living before Him, and it's a small way by which I'm putting you ahead of me in my priorities. As we do those things, then our connection grows closer. And our relationship grows closer. Our friendship grows closer. It protects us against the grind of the world around us, grinding us apart. And all in all, just delivers us a marriage that does bring happiness here on this earth, which is great. And I would hope you want happiness in your marriage as well. So, okay, so practical examples of this. So let's get super practical. So we want to give you some concrete, actionable examples of things that you can do every day to cultivate intimacy in the different areas of your marriage. So some of these you're going to find really difficult at first if you don't have a habit of doing these, but I'm hoping you can find one or two that you can incorporate into your relationship today. And focus maybe on just that one, and see how your spouse reacts to that, and see if you don't kind of start a energizing cycle spinning as you guys pursue each other in these areas. So the first one is physical touch, and again, I'm right. We're not talking about sexual touch right at this moment. What we're talking about is what Andrea just did. And if you're listening on audio, she just put her hand on my shoulder, right? I mean, it's not suggestive. It's not.
No, that's not true. Any physical touch to Nathan is suggestive.
We'll talk about this later. But no, it's my point is it's not intended to be suggestive.
Yeah,
Mainly,
right.
I'm talking primarily to guys, although I know there are some relationships where the girl's the one that can be more suggestive and it annoys the husband, and then if that's the case, I'm talking more to the girl. But the point is, if you're the one in your marriage that has a higher sex drive, you need to be really careful with this physical touch piece that it doesn't appear that you're being manipulative.
Yeah.
Right? Like hey, remember I touched your shoulder earlier today, now, micro.
Yeah, certainly, if this has been an issue where you have one spouse who feels like any physical touch is just a search for sex, you got some work to do.
Yeah.
But if that's not a thing, then yeah, if you're close to each other, brush by each other, put your hand on her shoulder, give her, right. I'm talking about. Or for him, whatever it is, it's the small little things to say, I'm thinking about you.
Right.
And it's so sweet when you do that and you realize we didn't just pass by each other in the hallway. He brushed my fingers while we passed by each other, and he's thinking of me. And it's just kind of another
connection.
Yeah, it's just a connection. Yep. Or we're in the car, and rather than just sitting there, hold each other's hands. It's just the small things.
Yeah,
and
it means
really
a ton
trying
to
to be intentional. I feel like we say intentional on every episode, but it's true. Be intentional to think of how can I, what moments can I take just to not make a big thing of it, but have these, or make a big thing. If you're hanging out after the kids go to bed, or you don't have kids or whatever, and you're watching TV, sit next to each other and
good call,
and hold hands, or sit next to each other with your shoulders touching or whatever.
Sure. Yeah, that's good. That's great. So small, quick hugs, quick connection points, micro physical intimacies all day, every day will do wonders for the physical intimacy in your marriage.
Totally.
So that's physical touch. What do we got next, babe?
So the next is
words of affirmation.
Oh yeah, I can't read that far. No, I can read that far. Words of affirmation. So those are like expressing appreciation or telling your spouse the way the good things you think about them.
Yeah.
Or,
specific, right? Specific.
Yes. Why you like, not that you love them, but why you love them.
Right.
Things that they do, not even necessarily for you, that you really appreciate or whatever.
Yeah. So practical example.
So easy, but it's something that sorry, I totally interrupted you.
Okay.
It's so easy to do. It really is. But it's something we totally just space out.
Yep.
A lot.
Yeah. And if this makes you uncomfortable, it doesn't necessarily have to be verbalized to their face. I tried a year and a half or so ago and I've not been like as consistent as I would like to be, but a lot of weeks I'll write
he's good at
a couple of notes to Andrea and stick them on her underwear drawer. Because like occasionally she changes her underwear and so then she finds these notes
5 days later. Gross.
But one of the notes is just like, hey, something something we're going through, or hey, it's more like narrative to what's going on in our life. But the second one is specifically to this point. And I always start it with, I love ... and then underneath ... and then I try to do something specific. Now, sometimes, there was one super romantic one that was like, I love how we're changing discipline with our kids because it's adding more stability to our house, right? That's not super sexy one. But a lot of the times I try to be like, I love that you're adventurous. I have an adventurous spirit. I love, your eyes, right? I mean, what is something really specific so that it's not platitudes, right? Like, I love what a good wife you are. Now, I tell her that, or what a good mom you are. I tell her that. But sometimes if we really want to build intimacy, we need to build, well, what is it you like about me as a mother? What is it you like about me as a wife? And my point is twofold. One, make it specific. And two, if maybe you don't feel like, hey, we don't have a high enough level of intimacy, emotional intimacy just yet where I can sit my spouse down and tell it to their face without feeling really uncomfortable. Go to Office Depot, buy the 3-inch by 2-inch, fine, get them off Amazon, the 3-inch by 2-inch sticky notes and write a note on it and stick it to your spouse's underwear drawer or windshield or whatever.
Yeah. Or schedule text messages.
Totally.
Rather than sitting and scrolling on your phone for 5 minutes, schedule 2 or 3 text messages over the next 5 days to go out at random times and to your spouse. It's super easy.
Totally.
And it's simple. It's small. And
Yep.
It doesn't have to be these long, 4-paragraph text messages. They can just be short.
Right.
So words of affirmation where you're just saying, sometimes even just thank you, like
it's
not taking advantage of or taking for granted. Like, hey, he stood next to me and did the dishes with me. I'm so thankful that you're a partner with me in just the work around the house.
Yeah, and if you're like, my spouse doesn't do any of that stuff, then I would challenge you that if you really are honestly telling me you can't think of a single thing to affirm your spouse in, lovingly, I just want to tell you that's a you problem. Like, does your spouse contribute any money to your home? Does your spouse make sure the bills get paid on time? Does your spouse show kindness to you in any way? Like, it's just a lie.
Anything worthy of praise, think on these things.
Right. And that's the great thing about words of affirmation. As you focus on those affirmations with your spouse, you begin to notice those things more.
Yeah, it's like a renewing of your mind.
That's right. Whereas if you have trained yourself to think about all the annoying stuff your spouse does, you're going to see the annoying stuff they do because you've trained yourself to think about that. So physical touch, words of affirmation. The third one is
acts of service.
Acts of service.
Hang out here for a while.
Is Andrea's favorite. So again, there are plenty of huge scale acts of service, right?
That's not what we're talking
Renovating a room, building on a wing to your house, which is the type of thing I'm very equipped to do.
He's working on it right now.
Right. Even like cleaning out the garage, right? Like there's big acts of service. I'm talking about small things, right? You know that pair of socks that your spouse leaves sitting in the bedroom, and every time you walk by, you go, he's a child. I'm not cleaning those up for him. Pick them up, right? That doesn't mean it's not okay to go, hey, can you not leave? I grabbed them for you because I love you, but can you not leave your socks in the middle of the bedroom floor?
Yeah.
Right? If your spouse and Andrew and I, this was a thing for Andrea and I for a while, and I did not do a good job of it. Now we've both given up. But for a long time, Andrea liked to have the bed made. We've
both given up.
That's what I said. But for me, for a long time, it was like,
kids.
Who's touring our bedroom? Like, what difference does it make if the bed's made or not? But my attitude should have been, you know what? It's meaningful to her, and it takes me 15 seconds. Right? So I can make the bed as a small act of service to her, and she knows I don't like to make it. So when she comes in the bedroom and the bed's made, she's going to go, "Oh, he thought of me and made the bed." Right? Those are the kinds of things we're talking about.
You know what? I think for somebody who's acts of service, all these things are great, but even just a micro small thing is your attitude towards whatever you're doing. So like if let's say in Nathan's and my circumstance, I'm big on acts of service and he doesn't like doing, I don't know, let's say he doesn't like cooking, and I'm laying on the couch I'm sitting on the couch with kids reading books or whatever, and I say, hey, would you mind starting dinner and doing this? If his response is, ugh, or, which he doesn't do, I'm so thankful, or rolling his eyes, or, yeah, what do you want? The act of service of just keeping those emotions to yourself, you don't have to be like, yes, I was looking forward to you asking me that, right? But just having a kind attitude towards doing the thing will go so far. And that's a little micro thing that is a major, but can make major strides.
Yep.
So if when your spouse asks you to do something, you bite your tongue and close your eyes, maybe like hide your face, I don't know, whatever. You know what I'm saying though? Like choose to not show the emotion of like, I don't really want to do that.
Sure.
And keep it to yourself. That goes so far, especially if that's kind of the reaction that you usually give. So.
Yeah. Good. That's a good call. I mean, that's a super practical micro act of service. So physical touch, words of affirmation, acts of service, quality time. So quality time's one that I feel like you and I have grown a lot in.
For sure.
And not that, I mean, we have always enjoyed spending time together, even when things weren't great in our marriage. I mean, there was a time
but
when
the
we
quality
didn't,
of the time,
but right. Well, and the micro, like we're good at like doing big things together, right? But we've gotten much better at like.
Yeah, you know what? We lock our kids out of our room sometimes so that we can have a 7-minute conversation, just to catch up. Not every day, but a few-minute conversation where nobody's interrupting.
Right.
Because we're like, oh, we have 3 things that we want to talk about that are small, like quick things, but we just can't we just can't connect on those.
Right.
So we lock our kids out and tell them to beat it for 5 to 7 minutes. And that has been, it happens occasionally, and it's really nice.
Right.
And it's just one of those ways where we're like, hey, our relationship is more important than the other things going on in the house right now. So,
yeah, the other, and this is the one I really want to encourage you guys in. we all like to maximize our time, right? There is an efficiency element to our lives that I think pleases most people. I just want to encourage you, when it comes to quality time, have freedom to not do the most efficient thing. And what I mean by that is, yes, it would be more efficient if your husband went and did the dishes and you went and folded the laundry.
Yep.
Because you're both getting the work done at the same time, then it'll be done and it'll be done.
Yeah, this is kind of a newer thing for us that we've discovered.
Right.
It's worth it not to be so efficient all the time.
Right. Because frankly, when we're done doing these chores, we're going to probably both want to go to bed anyway. So it's not like we're like, oh, let's make it really efficient so we have our whole evening. Like there are times when that's a thing, and then we do our own thing and get it knocked out so we can spend dedicated time together. But when we're going to have an evening where we're just doing adulting around the house, we do it together. Right? We meal prep together. We do some cooking together. We do some laundry. When we do the chores of the house together, even if we're like, we have something playing on our phones that we're listening to, whatever thing Andrea's into about people that should have died or whatever.
It's definitely not now this could go to quality time too, but it's definitely not he has his earbuds in, I have my earbuds in, we're just doing the thing together.
Right.
Like if we're listening to something, we're both listening to the same thing.
That's exactly
and we're doing
right.
a task together. And that's actually something Nathan is big on. If there's other people around at all, you don't have earbuds in.
I hate it.
It doesn't matter if you're doing your own thing. Yeah, he hates it.
No.
And I don't always agree
Even
with
from
that,
our
but
kids.
most of the time I do.
Right.
Yep, for our kids too. I don't care if you're doing your own thing and we're doing something else. Like that doesn't happen. We don't have earbuds in ever when there's other people around. And unless you're like in your room alone or everyone else is asleep or something like that, then the earbuds are fine. But he has never.
We have a time where we're doing our own thing. Like you and I. Like I don't ever allow it from our kids, but where you and I are doing our own. Like I'm gonna play a game on the computer and you're gonna do whatever you want to do.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's right.
It's
but
just
that's pretty
rare
rare.
even then, right?
And that has been really good.
Yep.
It's a micro, like it's a small thing in the scope of life, right? To not have earbuds in, but it really lends itself to quality time. And if it's like, hey, I want to listen to this podcast, well, let's listen. Let's do the task together. Listen to it together. Oh, then we pause it and we talk. And what do you know? Right. There's more quality time. It's just a small thing.
That's right.
And it's been a habit that at first was really hard for me to get used to because I like to kind of be in my own head sometimes. But it has been really good for us because it adds to our relationship and it adds to the things that we can talk about and
it creates
conversation.
The thing I really have appreciated about it is even just listening out loud to the thing you would have been listening to on your earbuds. Like earbuds sort of give off this like go away vibe. But listening to it, there's plenty of times where I've walked in the middle of something that you're listening to out loud. And, I try to not be annoying, but, I'll start like listening. But the other thing we've done a good job of that I encourage you to do is having it's okay to pause this. Like, whether if you want to ask something about the show or even if you just want to be like, hey, can we pause that for a second and talk about something completely unrelated? Like, that's another thing that earbuds I don't love about them is it feels like you're like, if you're like tapping someone on the shoulder and then they're like rolling their eyes and, it just gives off this whole go away vibe that I hate. Whereas, the way we're doing it now has more of like a inclusive connecting vibe. So that's been really
it's a small
positive
thing
for us.
that you can do, but it really does make a big difference.
Right. Okay. The last two then. First one is.
Sorry, I was back to quality time.
Yeah.
This can actually be not just your marriage thing, but like a family thing too. The not trying to maximize efficiency all the time, but when you as a family can choose to, hey, we're all going to do this thing together. So like we're bathing the kids. Rather than okay, can you go bathe the kids and I'll clean up the main level or whatever, but which we do sometimes. But if you can have this mindset of like, no, what's more important is the two of us spending time together, but then also the two of us are spending time together with our kids.
Yeah.
And then of course, naturally there's more conversation. There's more funny moments. There's more like, it is more enjoyable to bathe the kids when Nathan's there. It's more enjoyable to do these things when my best friend is there. So why would I choose to constantly split that up, you know?
Right.
So anyway.
Good call. That's
and
great.
it's good for
Thanks,
the kids too. They like having us both around better.
That's great. Okay. Shared experiences then is the last specific one I want to talk about. And then we're going to talk about overcoming obstacles for just a minute. But shared experiences is just being intentional about finding things that you enjoy doing together. Now, hear me carefully here. Finding things you enjoy doing together does not necessarily mean make sure that you both have the same favorite things, the same hobbies, the same whatever. It also does not mean you should be spending all of your time together and you shouldn't have your own friendships. And we've talked about that on this podcast. Maybe it's time to circle back to that again. But it is important for her to have girlfriends and for him to have guy friends. And I say it that way specifically. You're welcome to blow me up about how it's okay for your husband's best friend to be a girl, and I will tell you you're wrong. Mm-hmm. But it is important for him to have guy friends and for her to have girlfriends. But it's way more important that you guys find shared experiences together. Yeah. Find things you like to do together. Small things. Do you like to take a walk together? Do you like to talk regularly about what happens if we win the $100 billion jackpot or whatever it is? What are some? Do you like to listen to today's news? Right, like a Reuters news podcast together. Find something that you guys enjoy doing together that helps to create shared experiences. There's a side benefit of doing things like bathing the kids together, because bathing our kids is an experience. And so we can do that alone, or we can do it as a shared experience. And choosing to do it as a shared experience creates shared memories.
Right. Yeah, and they don't even have to be like big things that you're doing together,
That's right.
Like, oh, we're gonna go, I don't know, whatever, skiing today.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be a huge thing, right?
Right.
We're talking
but
about
the
little
small
things.
Hey, I like to read these types of books. Maybe we can read a chapter a day together.
Sure.
Because we both like those types of books. Whatever. So with this, just as a testimony to shared experiences, Nathan, you back when we were in the throes of craziness in our marriage years ago, one of the things that he used to say was, we have nothing in common. And it was this huge, I mean, he meant it as a big dig, and it was very hurtful. Because we didn't. But part of that was because we didn't try to have anything in common.
Right. That's right.
And we didn't try to live like a life together. We tried to live our own separate lives and make it work. And he would say a lot of times, like, we just don't have anything in common. And it was like so why should we try this? Right. And I would kind of wonder the same thing, but as a testament to that, we're still the same people. We've changed a lot, but we're still the same people. We have so many things in common, and we have so many things that aren't in common too.
Right.
But there's so many things because we've just looked for them.
Right.
We've taken small moments and sometimes large moments to look for things that we really like to do together. Small things. We like to find songs that are duets that we can sing one or two together while we're doing the dishes, and it's fun, that's a micro thing, but there are little things and there's big things that we've found that, gosh, we just really like, and maybe one of us likes it more than the other. But there's a ton of things that we enjoy doing with each other that increase the intimacy of our marriage and just the fun of our marriage. And sometimes it's just talking about the things that we might like to do and might like to do together that creates a shared experience.
Yep. Yeah, that's great, babe. That's great. Okay, so here's the thing, guys. These things aren't going to just happen. Right? Andrea mentioned being intentional earlier, and that really, I think, is the most important thing for us to point out as we wrap this episode up. If you think you're just going to find the time in your schedule to focus on these micro intimacies in your marriage, you're fooling yourself. If this is not something you currently have a habit of, it's not going to become a habit until you make it a habit, which means it has to become a priority. You may need to schedule into your phone some of these things, right? Acts of service. Man, tonight I'm going to spend 15 minutes and I'm going to actively go look around the house for small things I can do to serve my spouse. Right? Today at 2, I'm going to spend 10 minutes thinking about something affirming that I can text to my spouse. Right? It may need to be that regimented for a while until it becomes a habit. And once it becomes a habit, these things will come more naturally to you.
I guarantee you, amazing marriages, it doesn't matter how quote unquote easy it is for some and hard it is for others, they don't just happen.
No, they don't.
They take a lot of work. Whether that's been easy work or hard work, it's been a lot of work.
Right.
Amazing marriages don't just happen. And so if you want an amazing marriage, which I think everybody who gets in a marriage wants that, it takes work, effort, thought, intentionality, and passion for the best thing that the Lord is inviting you into.
Right. That's right. So I hope that there's been something in this episode that you have heard that challenges you, that makes you think, hey, I could probably improve in this particular area in our marriage. I think all of us could be more diligent in searching for opportunities to pursue our spouses in closer intimacy in one of these ways. So I hope that this challenges you, not in a condemning way, but in a challenging way to go deeper in intimacy with your spouse. If you have questions, thoughts, comments, feel free to put those in the comments below. If you're watching this on YouTube, if you are listening to it on audio only, pop over to any of our socials, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, any of those, and leave us your comments there. This episode will have a dedicated post. So until then, guys, thanks so much for joining us. We will be back at you next week with a new episode of the Marriage by Design podcast. Remember, God is for your marriage.
Thanks so much for listening. We just wanted to say, if you have a comment, a question, something that you're struggling with or need prayer, please reach out to us. You can get a hold of us by emailing marriagebydesignpodcast@gmail.com, or of course you can comment on any of our social media and we will get back to you. But if you have something private, feel free to email us. We're happy to personally respond to you.
That's right. And we do respond to every comment that we receive, either through our website, through YouTube, through our social medias, which leads me to feel free to pop over to our website, marriagebydesignpodcast.com. You can leave comments on any of our videos through that site. We would love to be able to connect with you, but please don't hesitate to reach out. Even if you just need prayer, you need someone to hear what you're going through, we're here for the Marriage by Design community, so feel free to reach out anytime. Until then, guys, thank you so much for joining us. We'll talk to you next time.